The transport pod hummed as it descended through Earth's atmosphere, carrying its unusual cargo. Jennifer sat rigid in the passenger seat, her scales shimmering between deep emerald and anxious silver. Her clawed hands gripped the armrests so tightly that small indentations formed in the metal. She had made a terrible mistake. "I want to go back," she said to the AI pilot for the 15th time. This was wrong. "I shouldn't have agreed to this. Destination locked." The AI responded with mechanical indifference. "Contract binding. Arrival in 7 minutes." Jennifer closed her reptilian eyes and tried to calm the fire building in her chest. Literal fire. The kind that could incinerate half a city block if she lost control. On her home planet of Draconis Prime, mail-order bride services were a last resort for the desperate. She had been desperate. 3 failed clutches, a family name in ruins, and debts that would take centuries to repay. When the human's offer came through the intergalactic matching service, she had accepted before reading the fine print. Now she was about to meet Robert Chen, a human colonist on Earth who had apparently always dreamed of a dragon wife. The very thought made her stomach turn. What kind of human fantasized about such things? The pod landed with a gentle thud in what appeared to be a modest homestead on the outskirts of New Vancouver. Jennifer emerged slowly, her 7-foot frame unfolding as her wings vestigial, but still impressive, caught the afternoon sunlight. The air smelled wrong. Too much oxygen, not enough sulfur. She hated it already. A boy stood in the doorway of the small house. He couldn't have been more than 8 years old, with dark hair and curious brown eyes that widened as he saw her. "Wow," he breathed. "You're even cooler than in the pictures." Jennifer blinked. Where was Robert? Hello, small human. "I am looking for Robert Chen. Is he your father?" The boy's face fell slightly. "Dad died 4 months ago. Farming accident. But he already paid for you, and the contract said you had to come anyway." He brightened again. "I'm Marcus. Dad said I could help pick from the profiles, and I chose you because you look like you could breathe fire and fight off the raiders that keep attacking our sector." Jennifer's world tilted. She had been purchased by a dead man for his child. The fire in her chest turned to ice. I need to speak to whoever is in charge here." "That would be me," came a woman's voice. An elderly human woman appeared behind Marcus, her silver hair pulled back in a practical bun. "I'm Robert's mother, Margaret Chen. And before you say anything, yes, I know this is irregular. Yes, I know you want to leave. But my grandson made a choice, and on Earth, we honor our children's wishes." Jennifer's tail lashed behind her. "This is absurd. I am not a pet or a guardian or whatever you think. The raiders come every 3 weeks." Margaret interrupted, her voice steady but tired. "They've killed 5 families in this sector this year. We're farmers, Miss Jennifer. We grow the soybeans that feed the Mars colonies. We can't afford private security, and the government forces are stretched thin. Robert used his entire life savings to bring you here, because Marcus begged him to find someone strong enough to protect us." Marcus stepped forward, holding out a battered tablet. On the screen was Jennifer's profile from the bride service. Someone, presumably the boy, had circled her listed abilities in bright red: advanced fire breathing, scales resistant to plasma weaponry, flight capability in low gravity, combat training, 47 years. "I didn't want a mom," Marcus said quietly. "I mean, I miss my mom. She died when I was little. But Dad said you were a warrior. He said dragons were the fiercest fighters in the galaxy. I told him I wanted someone who could keep us safe." Jennifer felt something crack inside her chest. She had expected a lonely human male with strange fetishes. She had expected humiliation and servitude. She had not expected a child's desperate hope or a grandmother's weary resignation. "The contract is legally binding for 1 Earth year," Margaret said. "After that, you're free to leave. We can offer you room and board, a share of the harvest profits," and as she paused, seeming to struggle with the words, "a family that needs you, not as a bride, as a protector. Maybe, if you're willing, as a friend." Jennifer looked at the small house, the fields stretching behind it, the vulnerable faces watching her. Every instinct screamed at her to demand transport back to Draconis Prime. But what waited for her there? More debt, more shame, more emptiness. Here stood a boy who had chosen her not for beauty or subservience, but for strength. A boy who looked at her scales and claws and fire and saw safety instead of monstrosity. The raiders, she said slowly. When do they typically attack? Marcus's face exploded into a grin. Tuesday nights, usually round a.m. They use hover bikes and plasma rifles. Amateurs. Jennifer muttered. She spread her wings slightly, testing the earth gravity. Manageable. Plasma rifles won't penetrate my scales. And if they're using hover bikes, they'll be easy targets from above. So you'll stay? Marcus asked, hope radiating from every pore. Jennifer sighed, smoke curling from her nostrils. 1 year. I fulfill the contract terms. I help with your raider problem, and then we reassess. But I am not a bride. I am not a mother. I am a warrior who happens to be temporarily employed by the Chen family. Is that clear? Crystal clear, Margaret said, but her eyes were suspiciously bright. Marcus simply launched himself at Jennifer, wrapping his small arms around her scaled waist. She stood frozen, uncertain, until her clawed hand moved almost involuntarily to pat his head. You won't regret this, Marcus said, his voice muffled against her torso. I promise. As the sun set over the soybean fields and Jennifer moved her few belongings into the small room they'd prepared, she wondered if perhaps, just perhaps, she had made the right mistake after all. And when Tuesday came, she would show these raiders what happened when they threatened dragons. She paused. A dragon's family. The word felt strange, but not entirely wrong.